What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K crossing over with Magic the Gathering. So the commander decks I've been reviewing for the past couple of days, I've talked about the Imperium deck, the Ruinous Powers deck, and the Necron Dynasty deck, and today I'm finishing it off with the Tyranid Swarm deck. This deck I wasn't even thinking about at all, and when it was revealed, I actually like it. Tyranids I thought were going to play just like Slivers, but no, it turns out that they are all about creatures and +1/+1 counters, and I already have a deck just like that I play. So seeing the deck once it was revealed, I was pretty excited because I'm like, oh, I could add this card to my deck. Oh, I didn't even think about that card, and it's all flavored in 40K, so that's pretty awesome. So it went from, like, without even being on my radar, to this deck might actually be the strongest of the 4 commander decks. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and check out the deck as I give you my thoughts and opinions on it. So first and foremost, let's start off with a bang with the Hierophant Bio Titan. This is an equivalent to what the Titans are for, the Imperium. So you have freaking monstrosities created of technology and machine and robotics to basically blow apart entire armies with a single weapon discharge. The Hierophant is exactly that, but for the Tyranids. So where the Imperium's Titans are all about machine, these are all about biomass. So these living constructs of horror are pretty powerful, and we can see that exactly on the card here. It is a whopping 10 forest for a 12/12 Tyranid creature. So this guy is going to be pretty powerful, but really expensive to cast. However, it may not be as expensive as you think, because he has an ability where you can take off counters, and every counter you take off from a creature takes away 2 mana needed to summon him. So if you have enough counters on the field, you could essentially play this massive 12/12 for only 2 green mana. That's crazy. Not just that, but its power is revealed in the mechanics Vigilance, Reach, and Ward 2. So if anybody tries to take it apart with like a counter spell or maybe some type of removal, they're going to have to pay 2 additional mana on top of the mana required for that card. Not just that, but Vigilance and Reach is really powerful considering he has a 12/12 body. So he can block flyers, and whenever he attacks, he does not tap, so that's really good. And then the cherry on top is that he cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. So yeah, any little Gribblies that are trying to chump block, they cannot. So this guy will definitely be a threat once he gets on the field, as he should be since he is a freaking Hierophant. Now going down to a smaller, yet still powerful creature for the Tyranids, we have the Malanthrope. 1, a green, and a blue for a 2/2 Tyranid creature with flying. He has the ability, Scavenge the Dead. When Malanthrope enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard, and then you put a +1/+1 counter on the Malanthrope for each creature card exiled this way. So this guy is a bomb late game. If somebody has a graveyard strategy, the Necrons, you're gonna take that away from them by exiling it, and for every creature in there, this guy pumps up to get even stronger. Beautiful artwork here as we can see the Malanthrope just obliterating some poor Tau Fire Warriors. So if you guys thought the Tau were not included in these commander decks, well, here they are, albeit dead. But yeah, the Malanthrope seems to be a pretty powerful creature late game, and it's very awesome for graveyard hate decks. But when it comes to the all-star card of this deck, in my opinion, it's gotta be Shadow of the Warp. 1, a red and a green for this enchantment that does this awesome effect that can be used in a lot of decks. So I can easily see people just trying to get this one card out of this deck because it's that good. It reads, the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 mana less to cast. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, Shadow of the Warp deals 2 damage to that player. So not only is this making your creatures easier to cast, it's also hurting your opponents every time they try to cast non-creature spells. Any Gruul deck, any creatures deck, any deck that has just a bunch of synergy with casting creatures, you have to put this in there. The ability to make your creatures easier to cast, faster to come out on the field is insurmountable. And not just that, but if your opponent are playing Spellslinger decks where creatures aren't the main focus, that 2 damage will stack up and it will be pretty detrimental. So this is a pretty powerful card for only 3 mana. Moving on, we have the Winged Hive Tyrant, 3, a blue and a red for this Tyranid creature that is also a 4/4. Now, Hive Tyrants, they're HQs, right? So why isn't this guy a legendary creature? I guess he's just too generic to be that, but he has a pretty powerful ability that could end games. He has flying and haste, but the will of the Hive Mind is why you really want him here, because other creatures you control with counters on them have flying and have haste. So you drop this mid to late game, and your army of Gribblies or your army of Tyranids that you have amassed with +1/+1 counters are gonna be able to hit your opponents because you're gonna be flying over any defenses they have. This is a pretty powerful card that we'll be seeing games end as soon as he drops, because he has haste. So yeah, pretty powerful one. Next up we have Grissen Star, Kellermorph. Speaking of legendary creatures, he is one, and he's a 1, a blue, and a red for a 3/2 Tyranid human. He has Ward 2, so he has a little bit of protection there, and he has this ability which is really powerful. Whenever another source you control deals exactly 1 damage to a permanent or player, he will then deal 2 damage to that permanent or player as well. So essentially, you want to play him in a deck that has a lot of small cast spells that deal damage. So like Thunderbolt, Fireball, that type of thing. So the more damage you do, he will basically bump that up by 2 to anybody. And since it's him doing the damage, I believe that also counts as commander damage. So if anybody gets hit to 21 with his ability, boom, knocked out of the game just like that. So a pretty powerful commander. Unfortunately, in this deck, if you do use him as your commander, you're removing all the green sources, and you really have to change how the deck plays, because again, it's more about a creatures matter / +1/+1 counters, whereas he's all about dealing, damage through little cantrip-like cards. So, in order to make this deck work really well, this next card is an awesome reprint, Hardened Scales, for just a 1 green. This enchantment reads as such: if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1/+1 counters are put +1 instead. So really great to spread out the love of +1/+1 counters, because now they're essentially becoming +2/+2. So really powerful. Your creatures will be getting that bonus, and if you need to remove counters, this one is basically giving you a free one to remove. So very synergetic, very powerful. I believe this card was creeping up to like around $10 in price or something like that. So now obviously, since it's been reprinted here, it's going to be a little bit cheaper, and a very welcome card in this deck. And then lastly, we'll finish off with the Toxicrene, a 3 and a green for a Tyranid creature with reach and death touch that happens to be a 2/4. But you want him here because of his ability. All lands have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and they lose all other abilities. So there are a ton of lands that are pretty powerful, such as giving you no hand size, giving you abilities to copy other spells. You have cards that give other lands other land types. So this is basically saying, no, we're playing with basic lands here. So it kind of brings everybody, even yourself, to the same playing field, which could be a detriment to you, but usually you want this to be hurting your opponent more so than not. So the Toxicrene could be a pretty situational card, but in the right deck, against the right opponents, it would be doing a lot. So that's all I got for this deck. It honestly became one of my favorites after seeing everything on here. The art for these cards is just amazing. I can't say that enough. Every single deck has beautiful art, and it's just amazing to see how well 40K translates to the Magic the Gathering playstyle. So hopefully we get to see more of these in the future. We do have secret layers coming out, which will include Blood Bowl, Age of Sigmar, and of course the one faction that everybody was super pissed that they didn't include, and that is the Orcs, because obviously Orcs are already in fantasy. and they work really well in Magic the Gathering with like goblins and other orcs, but we have a secret layer for that, so we'll see what that entails. But yeah, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, guys. Stay subscribed for more 40K content coming soon. And with that being said, I do want to say that if you guys want to support the channel, we do have a Patreon page, we have social media such as Twitter, and you guys can also support us directly via Super Thanks. So, thanks again, guys, and as always, it's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.